Hello, Region 12. Thank you so much for coming this weekend to the second part of our Fall AIM. So Fall AIM Weekend Part 2. So happy to see all of you here this weekend. Um, Great weather we've been having, so excited to see you all. Um, I'm Allison Miller. I'm the Education Coordinator here in Region 12. Just a few little reminders before we get started this evening. Few little housekeeping items. Don't forget here in the Zoom webinar that if you do have any questions for our speaker, that you can type them into the official Q&A box. So that is down at the bottom of your screen. Any other fun regional chit chat you can put into the Zoom chat box. So just wanted to remind you of those two things. And another reminder is that the video links for this weekend's classes, so our class this evening with Therese Antonini and all 4 classes tomorrow, those video links will be sent out within a few days. So be on the lookout for those. And with that, I would love to talk a little bit about our featured international speaker tonight, international faculty member. Therese Antonini is a sweet Adeline of almost 30 years. She's been a member for almost 30 years of Sweet Adelines. Her membership has spanned 5 regions, 8 choruses, and as well as chapter at large. And as actually including a short stint as a director for a prospective chorus, which is kind of fun. She has served in a variety of administrative roles, from the regional management team to her current position, which is the president-elect of the International Board of Directors. So she will be our president in 2022. Very exciting. She lives in Toronto, Canada, and sings with North Metro Chorus. So please welcome again Therese Antonini and her class on abundance thinking.
Thanks, Allison. I'm just going to tilt that a little bit so it's a little better. Welcome, Region 12. I'm so excited to be back with you. I had so much fun on our first weekend, so I'm looking forward to another great one with you. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation for you this evening. And as was mentioned, our topic tonight is abundance thinking. And abundance thinking, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it really does, it's a way of expanding our thinking to include possibilities. So tonight, as we go through it, we are going to talk about what abundance thinking is, what it is not. We're going to talk about the comparison of scarcity thinking as opposed to abundance thinking. We're going to look at how the brain works in terms of its thinking patterns. We're going to talk about successful habits that we can, I'm sorry. I lost my share. Here we go. Yeah, we're going to talk about habits that can help us to develop abundance thinking. And then we're going to do lots of fun little exercises during the session. Okay, so let's get started. Here's brain fun fact number 1. We've got a few of these tonight. Did you know that gratitude actually physically changes your brain? So it releases the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin, which are feel-good type neurotransmitters. They give a boost to the system. It has a singularity of focus. When you're in gratitude, you can't be focusing on anything else. You can't be focusing on negative thoughts when you're sitting in gratitude. It works with the confirmation bias. So the confirmation bias is that the brain will look for things that confirms what it believes. So it'll look for evidence to confirm what it believes. So if you are sitting in gratitude, if you are thinking grateful thoughts, your brain is going to be looking for things to be grateful for. So that's how gratitude can change the brain. So we're going to start off with a little exercise. I hope you've got a pen and paper. If you don't, you can just do this virtually in your brain. We're getting good at that. So I want you to draw an empty glass. It's very simple. And then I want you to add enough gratitude to make that glass half full. Okay. So if I were to do this, I would start with singing. I would go squishy, squishy is my cactus. Legos, I love to play with Legos, and I have a great job. And I would add my daughters, Mary and Christine, but then my cup would overflow. So I want you to think about this just for maybe a minute or so, and then we'll ask people to share what are the things that that fill their gratitude glass to half full, or at least half full, so that we're looking at the positives in our life. So I'm going to give you, let me think, I'll give you maybe a minute. Let's do a minute for this. I'll set my little timer for 1 minute. Okay, so just give it some thought of the things that fill your gratitude glass. We'll get our brains in the right place for an excellent educational evening. Okay, we're down to 20 seconds. So if somebody has some they'd like to share, you can get ready to put your hand up and we'll get you to share your thoughts about what fills your glass. Okay. All right, time's up. Anybody who wants to share? Let's see what we've got here. What fills your glass? Okay, Kathy, can you speak?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I wasn't sure how to where to write in the QA or chat room, so cool. I am thankful for Sweet Adelines and everything that is brought to my life. I'm thankful for my wonderful puffy cat. I'm thankful for my awesome son, Ken, and so much more. But then like you, I would be overflowing.
Yeah, that's right. Which is a great thing. A great thing. Okay. Anybody else? What fills your gratitude cup?
Therese, someone in the chat said they're grateful for their husband and their family.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Okay, Janet.
Here we go.
Hey there, Janet.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm very grateful for my family, for God, for this beautiful world we have, my pets, and I'm thankful for good wine.
There you go. That's excellent. Thanks, Janet. Okay. Anything else in the chat, Allison? Or
Yes.
well,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Another one came through. Sherry says that she is grateful for being retired, for her son and family and grandchildren.
Very nice. Very nice.
And
yeah,
then,
so it makes you feel good to think of those things that you're grateful for. It's you know, it fills your body with a positive energy. Neurotransmitters in your brain are sending happy thoughts. So it's a great place to be. So, all right, we're going to move on. So what is abundance thinking? Abundance thinking is a mindset that focuses on the strength and the value of what we already have, okay, and possibility. So we think about what are the possibilities out there. It focuses on the value of personal worth. So abundance thinking allows us to think of ourselves as having value, just based on being the person that we are. And it's based on the premise that we are responsible for our own lives. Okay, so it's a strong mindset. It has to do with, I have control of the way that I live my life, okay? What is it not? So abundance thinking is not a one-time or temporary shortcut to get to what we want. So it's not, I'm going to think this great thing is going to happen to me and it's going to happen. That's not abundance thinking. It's not a passive intellectual activity. So abundance thinking has to be backed up with action. And we'll talk about that later as we talk about the habits that we can form, so that it's not just, again, just that sort of thinking good things and they happen. There's action behind abundance thinking. It's not based on anyone else's outcomes. So when you think about what is a value in your life, what the things as you just did, what fills your gratitude cup, things like that, it's not based on anything that anyone else has made rules about. So, and it's not always easy to adopt and apply consistently. So, you know, it can be a challenge to stay in an abundance mindset, especially in times like these, where it would be very easy to look at what we don't have, what we can't do, those type of things. So there's some work involved with abundance thinking. So we are going to have a contest here. We found out yesterday that our regional competitions will not be happening in 2021 the way that we had originally planned. So I thought, well, we need to have a competition here. So we are going to play the Great Thinking Sing-Off. We have 2 contestants. We have abundance, scarcity and abundance are our 2 contestants. Okay, so we are going to go through this contest and we're going to look at what each of them has as lyrics, what they sing, what they think in our Great Thinking Sing-Off, okay? So here's how it works. It's a contest in 8 rounds. So there's going to be 8 rounds in this contest. You get to be the judge of each round. So just like in Sweet Adelines, we're going to be looking for 4 judges for each round. So the first 4 people who raise their hands are going to get to be a judge. And again, just like the judges in Sweet Adelines, they're going to give feedback to the competitors. So they're going to say what's great about what they're doing, what the limitations of what they're doing, how they could turn things around. So they're going to get to share that. We will also be monitoring the Q&A. So if you have something to add and you're not one of the 4 judges, feel free to do that and we'll do a quick check-in on the Q&A at the end of each round as well. Okay, and then you all get to vote for the winner of each round, and we're going to be using the poll function of Zoom for that. At the end, the winner of the most rounds will win the sing-off. Okay, are there any questions? You can type questions into the Q&A if there are any, if you want to, if anybody's not clear on how this is going to work. So if you've ever wanted to be a judge, if you've ever thought, wow, that judging looks really fun, this is going to be your opportunity. So when I put the sign up for judges, get your hands up and we'll do this contest. All right, are we ready to begin? We are going to begin with round 1. So round 1, scarcity sings, there is not enough to go around. Abundance sings, there is always more, where that came from. Okay, and I need 4 judges. My participant. I need you to put your hands up. If you don't know how to put your hands up, if you go to your participant box and open your, oh, there's one. Open it up. We've got 2 so far. And I'm going to ask Sherry to begin. Sherry, are you there?
Sherry's muted.
Here we go.
Okay, so I would say that abundance is a winner for me.
Okay, and why is that, Sherry? As a
Well,
judge.
because I believe that that would make that singer very happy, and it would be coming out to the audience that they were happy and that there was more to look forward to each time they sang another song or another note or another word.
Excellent. Okay, that was great. Judge number 1. Gail, you are judge number 2.
I'd have to go with abundance also because the idea that there's not enough to go around, who decided that? Like, what is it? and how many people have to share it, and where does it come from, and how does it get used up. It's a lot easier if we think about things flowing through us rather than flowing into our bucket and staying there. So I vote for abundance.
Excellent. And I love the point you made about, because what scarcity tends to make you do is to keep it to yourself, right? You don't want to share it because there's not enough to go around. Whereas abundance, if you believe there's going to be more where that came from, you're free to give and share. Excellent. Thank you so much. Judge number 3, Stacy Rose.
We're picking one or the other?
No, you can judge either one. So you could give scarcity some tips on if you think that there's things that scarcity could improve, or if you say to abundance, same thing. So you can give tips and make comments about both competitors. That was a great question, Stacy.
Oh, well, I guess I would want to encourage scarcity, that there's abundant pie. There's not just one pie. There's an infinite number of pies to split up. Everybody can have a piece.
Excellent. That would be great advice to scarcity. Very good. And our final is Linda.
Well, I choose abundance as well. And I think this one is interesting. There is always more where that came from, could have a negative connotation to it. But this particular abundance decided to take it in a positive direction. And that's what I like about it.
Very good. Very, very good. All right. That was excellent judging. Wow. We've started off with a great round 1. So now we're going to move from the judging and we're going to have the vote. So now you can all chime in and we'll get the poll up for you. So round 1, a vote for abundance thinking or scarcity thinking. Okay.
Looks like we have 33 out of 34 voting.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty safe, there's 34 now. This is a pretty safe thing to say that round 1 goes to abundance thinking. So I'm going to ask one of our panel here to keep score for me. So at the end of round 1, what is our score? Let's see, who should I ask? Who on this panel could do this for me? Keep score. It's not going to be very hard. Okay, Allison, why don't you keep score? All right, excellent. We have a winner and 100% voting. That's excellent. Very good. So abundance thinking is the clear winner of round 1. We have a score of 1-0. All right, let's move on. Round 2. Scarcity sings, my knowledge makes me more powerful. Abundance sings, sharing my knowledge makes me more powerful. All right, and we're ready to begin the judging. I need 4 judges. All right. Sherry, I'm going to let you go while other judges are putting their hands up.
Well, to me, I'm a little not sure, because my knowledge makes me more powerful, and sharing my knowledge makes me more powerful. Knowing that you have knowledge is important, but when you share knowledge and you see something that happens from sharing that knowledge, that I don't know that it makes me more powerful or makes you more powerful, but it makes you feel like you've helped someone.
Right.
So, but I think that my knowledge makes me more powerful is also a true statement. But I think it's more important to share the knowledge and help people, or try to help people, than it is to keep that knowledge to yourself.
So this one's a little closer for you, but still leaning toward the abundance side.
Yes, I still would go for abundance.
Excellent. Thank you. That was great. Some great input there. Great. And Diana, you're next.
Well, I definitely would go for abundance, because when you share your knowledge, first of all, whenever you're sharing something, you, especially if it's knowledge, you learn also. You learn something new. And you're not only learning something new for yourself, but you're also growing the knowledge and spreading it around. So it doesn't just stay with the person who has it.
Excellent. Great insight as well. Okay, and Joanne, I need one more judge too as well. So, yeah, okay, I got a fourth one. That's excellent. Joanne, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to choose abundance, because to me, knowledge is a lot like love. The more you share it, the more there is. And so each person you share it with grows it further. So there's more.
Excellent. Yeah. So again, that whole idea of lots to go around. Let's share. Excellent. Kathy, you're judge number 4.
Okay, well, I look at scarcity and I think, why would you want to hold in that knowledge? You would just be bursting with all of the stuff that we learn every day. And under abundance, I guess I would go to that, but I would change the word powerful to empowered.
Very good. Very
because
good.
it feels almost negative to say it makes me more powerful. I guess it's a tone of voice, but
But that's a really good point, and that may be something I do change. I do change in the presentation. That's very, very good point. Makes me feel more empowered, and empowers others as well.
Has a different feel to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Excellent. Those are excellent points. I'll tell you, Sweet Adeline judges have nothing on you. So here we go. Are we ready? I have to close my panel here, and let's go to vote. So we're going to put the second poll up.
We're at 35 out of 38 so far.
I'll give it a couple more seconds. Okay, we're getting up to the minute mark, so I think we can also declare this one abundance the winner on this one as well. So Allison, my scorekeeper, what's the score?
Our score so far is 2-0 in favor of abundance thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Round number 3. Scarcity says, I default to suspicion of people. They must earn my trust. Abundance says, I start from a place of trust and build rapport easily. This one usually sparks some really good discussion. So who would like to be my judges? Okay, Sharon, I'm going to allow you to talk while our other judges are putting their hands up. Go ahead, Sharon.
So this is interesting because to default to suspicion of people is sort of a difficult way to live your life. And starting from a position of trust is good, but the building rapport easily concerns me.
Okay.
Because especially as women, we have a habit of being people pleasers and that whole thing. And so I have a concern about boundaries.
Okay, excellent. So I think that's a really good point, Sharon. And what I like to explain about this position of trust does not mean being blindly trusting. So it's not, I just met you, I'll lend you $5,000. It's not getting the email that says, a prince across the ocean needs $10,000. It's not blind or foolish trust. So that idea of, building the rapport easily being, putting yourself at risk is not a part of this. So we usually, as I said, have really interesting discussion about this, because the idea of trust has kind of gotten mixed up with allowing yourself to be a victim. So it's a really good point of that, you know, as you say, we can put ourselves in positions of risk, and that is not what abundance thinking is about. You still want to keep yourself safe. You still want to not, you know, not put yourself at unnecessary risk. So that's an excellent qualifier and really good discussion about this abundance thinking about a position of trust. Additionally, you know, trust builds in as you go. So again, you're not, I may not trust you today when I meet you as much as I do from, you know, 3 years from now when we've been through things together, but I'm still going to start from a position of, you know, believing you're a trustworthy person, that type of thing, and then build the trust from there. So that's that rapport being built easily. But it's a great point that, you know, this one is not about blind trust or putting yourself at unnecessary risk. So thanks very much for that discussion. And Cindy, judge number 2. And need a couple more judges.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I just think if you start off suspicious of people, then it doesn't go anywhere. If you start off thinking the best of them, and then as you learn each other, about each other, you have more of a rapport, and it just seems to be a nicer way to learn how people live or how they, you know.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because if you start from a position of suspicion, then what do people have to do to earn your trust? And so if that is where you start, there needs to be some kind of, okay, I need to see you, you know, follow through on doing what you said you were going to do, those type of things. So it's a great point as well, that it opens the possibilities for you if you're not defaulting to suspicion. Right. And I see Gail's hand up. Thank you, Cindy.
If you're, it's easier to start to approach the world from a position of trust if you feel strong and secure. Like people who have been damaged and organizations that have been damaged feel perhaps rightfully, you know, more vulnerable to new things, and so they might say, oh well, this new chorus member has to prove that she's a worthy member, or this neuter, I'm gonna just hang back and see, you know, how she is. Or if you're a person, you know, oh, I'm gonna wait for this person to make the next move in our relationship or whatever, because I might get hurt. Whereas if you have a feeling of abundance and strength and security, then you can open yourself up to people, and you can make the first move, and you can reach out to the new chorus member, and you can welcome the new director. And you know, so some people are more suited to do that than others.
Yeah, that's very true. And one of the things I think there is in that, you know, your own self, that strength of self, is that idea of this is what I own and this is what you own. And the idea that, you know, if somebody does betray your trust, you hear some people say, I've been burned in the past, that type of language, to recognize that it's the betrayer who is at fault. So it's not, if you don't go to that place of, oh, I was so foolish, or oh, I was a sucker, or oh, I fell for something, and recognize that where the poor behavior was, or where the mistake was made, that is owned by the person who did that. It's a hard thing to do, depending what the results of that betrayal are. And certainly it can affect relationships going forward. It's when we think about, though, putting ourselves in the position to live a more abundant life, that's where the idea of trusting and then building from there. So that's a great point. I think I need one more judge. Do I have one more judge?
I think we had 4.
Did we? Okay. Okay, I thought we only had 3. So I'm gonna let Diane speak. Oh, I think she put her hand down. Diane, did you want to speak? Go ahead, Diane.
Reading this, and instead of I start from a position of trust, I think I'd rather say that I start from a position of acceptance, because I don't, just because I accept someone doesn't mean I totally trust them, but I do want to accept that person so that I can see the potential and the potential abilities in that person. And when that opens me up to being able to appreciate the person and to be able to see and look for things that allow us to rapport.
Yeah, I interrupted you. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, again, the word trust means different things to different people. So these are taken from, you know, descriptions of abundance in research and things like that. But it's a good point for you. If for you, you can go to an abundant place by thinking of that as being that acceptance. For me, that acceptance does indicate at least a level of trust. And when we talk later this weekend about delegation, we'll sort of see how, you know, there is a responsible way to trust people, both for yourself and for others. I have tended to be too trusting in my life in terms of, especially at work, like if somebody tells me they're going to do something, I completely trust them that they're going to do it. Now I've learned to, the trust is good, but you can put checks and balances in to make sure that things get followed through on. So again, there are techniques that we can work on, but you know, it's a different ways of looking at it. So let's see what our results on this one are. This one could be very interesting. So there's our vote. I'm just going to play.
– 38 out of 42 have voted so far.
We'll let it go to the minute. We're almost there. Okay, so again, there were a few more this time, 18%. And as I said, this one usually does spark the most conversation, especially in the world we live in, where a lot of people have experienced a betrayal of trust. There was my favorite response to this, I was teaching this at where I work, to my corporation, and there was a young man, he was maybe just like right in the early 20s. And when he responded with, you know, thinking of abundance, looking from the abundance standpoint, he said, it just makes me feel happier. He just feels happier trusting people. And so I thought, I really like that response. I thought, yeah, for your own self, it puts you in a positive place. But I certainly understand the idea of we do need to be careful. We do need to take, you know, if we're taking risks, make them calculated risks, not just blindly trusting everybody to the same degree. Again, as you're in relationship with someone, you trust them more. With things like, you know, it might be very personal information. You don't share that with someone when you first meet them. It's not that full and blind trust we're talking about, but starting from a position of that openness and then building the rapport as you go. Excellent, excellent conversation. The judges were fantastic on that one. I love it. Okay, we are going to move on. Okay, oh, I forgot to get the score, Allison.
Abundance thinking is still leading the way, 3-0.
Excellent. All right. Round 4, scarcity sings. Competition makes me weaker and makes the pie smaller. And abundance says competition makes me stronger and makes the pie larger. So, we ready? I need 4 judges. Okay, Joanne.
Well,
Are you muted, Joanne? I heard you for a second there, but.
I don't know what happened.
There you
Sorry.
go. We got you back. That was a long pause after that. Well, you're really thinking about
A lot of competition is kind of a zero-sum game. And so it can make people feel weaker and seeming like the pie is smaller. But I have to say, the way we compete in Sweet Adelines is very different because we help our competitors all along the way as much as we can, because that makes us all better.
Yeah, and that is truly, I mean, when I saw this, as when I was doing my research on abundance, I almost laughed out loud when I saw this, because, and when I teach it to non-Sweet Adeline audiences, students, see, I'm in Sweet Adeline's boat. I talk about Sweet Adelines as the example of this, because when you think of the levels that we are achieving in our organization, because of the way we approach competition, you know, we coach each other, we cheer each other on. I don't know if I shared with you last week, but when a couple of internationals ago, I was in the front row as a board member, and there was a photographer, and he asked if he could sit in the front row and take pictures. And so he sat there for about an hour just taking candids and everything. And at the end of it, he said to me, I have never seen a competition like this, where people are cheering. Like he said, there's no difference. Like you don't hear, you know, cheering from a section of the audience and then cheering from another section. It's like everybody's cheering everybody on. He was so impressed with the support of each other. So I think Sweet Adelines for me is a real example of abundance thinking about competition. So I need a few more judges here to comment on this particular. Okay, Mary.
So under abundance, that competition makes us stronger. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, competition makes us stronger because it's the preparation for it. We spend a lot of time working and preparing for the competition. It gives us more confidence in what we're doing, and so the pie is larger.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. And if you think about the history of human beings, competition is it's a very natural thing for human beings to do, right? It's very, very natural to kind of push each other. And, you know, you think of records being broken, they're only being broken because somebody set them in the first place. So it's really interesting. I need another judge, 2 more judges. Anybody? Okay, Diana.
I think this one is tough, and I liked the response of the person who was just spoke. But the thing about competition, if we're required to at least, of course, if you're talking about Sweet Adeline's competition, that's totally different. So I'm just going to talk about general competition, because Sweet Adeline's competition grows you and it strengthens you. But we have other competitions in life. And that is, if we, during competition, we try to encourage even our competitors when we're all maybe a little fearful, or maybe we even have a little bit of doubt, but we can share the experience of just go for it. And once you've done something. There's no such, you might not win the medal, but you have won the experience of having gone beyond your fear.
Absolutely. That, again, that journey that somebody else spoke about, that preparation and everything. But I find it really interesting when we talk about, so why is Sweet Adeline's competition different? And I believe it's because our approach to it is totally abundance thinking. We go into it totally thinking this is so great for all of us. Whereas if we feel, you know, that idea that, well, if you win, that diminishes me, that's like a scarcity mindset. So I feel like this really is a result of mindset. You know, I think the same thing if you're competing for a job, if you look at it from an abundance, well, what did I learn from that interview? Or what, if I look at the successful candidate, what do I learn? Things like that. So it's, again, it's that mindset. It's the mindset that you choose to look at it. I need one more judge. There we go, Kathy.
Sorry. I look at it, the person who was just speaking, it made me think of before I retired, and I worked in a primarily a very male-oriented business, and there was always competition. You know, as a woman trying to be heard in that environment was really difficult. And I always felt, I'm going to say in this class here, I felt a need to compete with them all the time, and it made me sometimes feel weaker. But the stubborn side of me, it actually ended up making me stronger in all the other parts of my life because of having to work so hard to be heard in that environment. So I think I'm kind of split because of that experience of mine.
Yeah, it's a great point. Again, you know, it depends on what that experience is like, and how you think of it. So you are thinking of that in your abundance brain, saying, hey, it actually did end up making me stronger, although at times I felt diminished, right? And I came from the same type of industry as you, Kathy, where I started out with very few women in the industry and having to prove myself over and over and over again. But there is no question to me that made me stronger. My favorite answer that I've ever heard to this one was a person who said, well, if it's a pie eating competition, there's going to be more pie. I thought, well, that's really abundance thinking. All right, excellent judges. Let's have a vote on this one and see how it goes. Kind of fun, you know, as we get a little bit where it's not quite so easy to say, that one looks right to me. It's very interesting.
Five more votes, four more.
Okay, I think we're at a minute, so that's good. Excellent. So once again, round 4 goes to abundance thinking. And Allison, what's the score?
Our score is 4-0. Abundance is still in the lead.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's go on to round 5. All right. Scarcity says, I ask myself, how can I get by with less than expected? Abundance asks, I ask myself, how can I give more than expected? All right. I need some judges. Sherry.
Well, scarcity is setting themselves up for not so much fun and no expectations, and just taking it as whatever. But abundance is the more they give, the more they can get. That's how it feels to me. When I say look at scarcity, I think, why would you want to get by with less than what is expected? Is that the way you want to live your life? Because that's just not a happy life that I see. And abundance is saying, the more that I give and do, the more that I feel like life is better.
Right. again, there's a sharing here, right? And I think the words get by to me, like get by to me sounds, like you said, just sort of, you know, I'm making it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad thing to say, I have less than I was expected. How can I make the best of it? But get by to me sounds a little bit limiting.
And
Anyway,
that's not really living
yeah,
fully to
true.
me.
Yeah, very good. Excellent judging. I'm gonna tell Paula Davis that you should all be applying for the judging program. Okay, I need 3 more judges. Okay, Cindy. You there, Cindy?
Yeah,
There.
sorry, I looked at the wrong unmute. Just the way I live my life and how I think everyone should to make the best life they can is give your 100% all the time. Just that simple.
Yeah, it's giving is such, again, it's such a proactive thing to do. It puts you in a good, mindset. As a matter of fact, for people who are suffering from depression and things like that, one of the things that's recommended is volunteering, right? To give of yourself. There's that, and there's that idea of accomplishment, right? That idea of going beyond again. So that's excellent. Thank you, Cindy. I need 2 more judges. 2 more judges. Now they're scared because I said they should apply for the judging program. Okay, Linda.
I'm going to go with scarcity here, and I can see this in 2 different ways. So who has the expectation, scarcity or those around scarcity? So I believe she needs a better set of friends, because if her friends have really high expectations of her, or her boss or her family, whomever's in her life, then you rise to that and you do it, and everything is better for it. So I'm hoping that it's in relation to the friends and not her.
Very good. That's an excellent, you know what? I think that would make scarcity feel very good that you gave that advice. Thank you. Mary.
So the scarcity one, I work with a lot of young people who are caregivers, and many of them have the idea that they're going to do just what they need to do to get by. They're not going to overextend. They don't work the extra hours. They just do the minimum. It's somewhat of a mindset of that generation. The abundance, when I saw the statement, the first thing that hit me was John F. Kennedy's statement of ask not what you can do for your country, but ask what your country can do for you. I said that wrong. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Right. You knew what you did. Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yes, definitely.
And I think Sweet Adeline's, our mindset is to always do more than expected.
Right, right. Yeah, and again, especially now as in the position I'm in now, just the extraordinary quality of our volunteers, the way that individuals in this organization give, again, it really is inspirational. So I think to a great degree, we do practice abundance thinking organizationally. Of course, not always and not about everything, but I do think that idea, certainly my experience with the volunteers I've worked with, almost always they exceed my expectations. So, and it's not because I have low expectations, it's just that they are so extraordinary. So excellent. All right, are we ready? Let's vote on this one. Okay, I think we can go with the 94% vote. It looked like it had stayed for a moment there. So again, abundance thinking wins round 5. Allison, The score.
Abundance is holding steady, 5-0.
Okay.
Over scarcity.
Okay, excellent. And we're moving on to round 6. So round 6, scarcity says, there are tough times ahead in the future. Abundance says, the best is yet to come. Can I have my judges, please?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. They're not, it's not like there's no thought about these or that it will be easy. As I said at the beginning, it's not like this is easy. Yes, Sharon.
Well, I wrestled with this one, being a realist. So you don't want to deny that there might be problems. But I did hear something I really like, which is that worry is really a waste of imagination. And so there may be tough times ahead in the future, but worrying about it isn't going to change it one way or another. And maybe the best is yet to come is Pollyanna-ish, but you know, it's not going to do any good to stew over what may or may not happen.
Right. I think that's a really good point about the energy. Where do you put that energy? You know, when I was on my own with 2 little girls, and I said to my mom once, I'm so not looking forward to their teens. And she said to me, you know, you were a really easy teenager. Don't anticipate that that's going to be a bad time for you, you know? And it wasn't. That just happened to be. The other thing is, my dad used to say, whatever happens, you can turn it around and get something good out of it. So that idea of the best is going to come in. We were just talking at the beginning before we opened the meeting about what, you know, with everything we've been doing, all the different ways we've had to respond to COVID-19, how there's going to be good things come out of it, although you know, it's not that there won't be struggles, but that there is going to be a better time for us. So excellent. Okay, Gail.
I like the phrase, prepare for the worst, but expect the best, you know, that you shouldn't be like you shouldn't fail to be prepared for tough times, but you shouldn't allow the possibility of tough times to rob you of the joy of expecting something good. You know, a lot of the scarcity attitudes come from trauma, either personal trauma or organizational trauma. You know, people who have difficulty trusting have generally been betrayed at some point, sometimes at a very young age. People who find it hard to let go of their expectation of tough times ahead and can't take a risk to like invest in something for the future, you know, have often been through material deprivation. You know, I think a lot of us have parents who grew up during the Depression and, you know, never got over it.
It's a good point that there so much of our mindset, and this is that those pathways that get built in the brain comes from our life experience, right? And so that idea of fear, a lot of scarcity thinking comes from fear, comes out of a fear base. So and based on life experiences, the brain you know, does the things it thinks it needs to do to protect the organism. So definitely all of this is colored by our experience in life. Okay, great points. Julie. Hey, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Did they tell you that you got great accolades at our last weekend?
Yes, I listened to that recording afterwards because I couldn't be here. That was so nice to hear. It was just lovely.
Yeah, excellent. Lovely. Anyway, Julie, tell us as a judge.
So I see that these can both be true. These can both exist at the same time. Yes, there are tough times ahead in the future, and you can say, okay, I'm going to just grit my teeth and go through it. But I can also believe that the best is yet to come. And you know, it's a matter of where you put your emphasis and where you put your the weight of what you're thinking about. And you know, to me, the weight needs to go on the abundance thinking.
Yeah, it's a great point, because that whole idea of, you know, these thoughts, as you say, it's not that they're not true. There's nothing but that idea of where you're going to put your energy, right? Are you going to spend your time thinking, your thinking energy on there are tough times ahead in the future? Or are you going to say, I'm going to spend my energy on the best is yet to come, right? Looking for that best. So it's a great point that it is, where do you make the choice to put your mindset? Excellent point. Thank you very much, Julie. All right, I think we're ready to vote. Let's go ahead and vote on this one. Okay, it hasn't moved for a couple of seconds, so we'll go to that one. And again, abundance thinking by quite a margin. But there is some in the scarcity thinking. So it's that really thinking about this. This is excellent discussion, and you know, really thoughtful, and very thoughtful people here. So Allison, nice score.
We are holding, abundance is holding the lead 6-0.
Okay, let's move on. Round number 7, we're almost done. Scarcity says, I think small, avoiding risk. Abundance says, I think big, embracing risk. Okay, let's hear from a couple judges. There's my participants. Anybody? Anybody? All right, Gail.
Sorry to be a hog here, but
this is great.
It does make me think. You know, once again, to think of risk as something that's an opportunity rather than a threat, you have to have a sense of strength and sufficiency in yourself or your organization or your family or whatever it is. You know, it's easy to if you think that your chorus is weak and the attachment of the members to it is slight, you know, then you're not going to want to take a risk that says, hey, let's move to a new location, or let's spend a lot of money on coaching this year and try to raise our score by 100 points or whatever, you know. Because if you fail, you know, you'll see that the chorus will disintegrate. Whereas if you have a chorus where you feel confident about the bonds among the members, and the organization has a financial savings account and it has good support, you know, in the community, then you can feel much better about, you know, hey, let's spend a big chunk of our savings on coaching, or let's buy some new costumes or something, you know. So we always have to be cultivating that feeling of security. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, you got to feel secure before you can take risks.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think for me, again, this one, when I think about it, this is not uncalculated risk. This is not, you know, this does involve looking at the benefits compared to the risk. But it's being able to look at a risk and say, I'm willing to take it. I'm willing to take the outcomes. You know, I think of some of our performing groups that have taken big risks. Some of them have not paid off. You know, some of them have not, have ended with them finishing lower than they expected. I think a great example of that would be North Metro with their homeless package. That was a huge risk. And in a lot of ways, it did not pay off, but it was a risk that they took. And so I think, again, it's not uncalculated. It's not like, as you said, so if we only have, you know, $100 left in our bank account, it's not going out and risking that for a questionable or low benefit. So this is not uncalculated, but it's that idea that we will take risks and accept the outcomes and embrace it. In other words, that embracing. So, all right, Joanne.
Well, I think that life is full of risk. It's everywhere. And if we become too concerned with avoiding risks, then you don't really live. On the other hand, I don't believe in taking unnecessary or foolish risks. Like, for instance, I wouldn't want us to get back on the risers right now in the midst of a pandemic. That would be a foolish risk. But I think you have to embrace some risk in order to enjoy life and get the most out of life.
Well, and to grow, right? If you think about people who have grown, they typically have taken some pretty big risks. You know, people who have when I say they've come from a position and ended up in a much stronger position, there's usually been risk involved. Yeah. So I think there's, as you say, if you're not willing to risk anything, then your chances of growth are a lot smaller. Kathy, let's hear from you.
You kind of took the words out of my mouth there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But going back to North Metro for a second, if I was in the audience and it was controversial and it may not have paid off with points, but by golly, everybody in that audience will remember it. And that was impactful.
That's true. Yeah. So if you think about that, that's that whole idea of what is success to you, right? Definitely. And I'll share with you that one of North Metro's goals is to touch the audience.
And they do.
So if as you say, if it moves people in the audience, then that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really
Well, I was going to mention though, on the scarcity side, I think that's coming from a position of fear and protection, self-protection. Whereas on the abundance side, when you say, I think big and embracing risk, like you said, it's growth. It's all about if you don't try it, you're never going to grow. You're never going to learn. It's like that saying, something about if you don't shoot for the stars, you know, or shoot for the stars and at least you'll be up, shoot for the moon and you'll be up there by the stars or something like that. You know, whatever that saying is like, you got to shoot for it. So what if you don't quite make it to the, you know, ultimate goal? You're still going to be, you know, bigger than you were.
Right. I think that's also an excellent point. And Evelyn, it says Evelyn and Paul. I'm not sure. Go ahead. Whoever that is. Sorry, Evelyn. Is it Evelyn? Are you there?
It's Evelyn, but she's muted. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Okay, I saw it. Thank you. You have my husband's name there too, and we do other Zoom things together. But the one thing I was thinking of, and it popped in my mind at the very beginning, is that if you think about all the different personality types, you have, when you think of what I thought of with that person on avoiding the risk, the small thing, I thought about that person who is a critical thinker. And sometimes you need those critical thinkers to ask the right questions.
Absolutely.
And they aren't the ones that are going to go and be the leaders of making something new and different happen, but they're going to help you design it so that it is successful. And so, you know, that kind of entered my mind, and I thought maybe I'd just share that with you. Embracing risk is not easy for everybody. They have to really put it into something they can handle on their own.
Well, and I think that there is a really good point about that, because identifying risk is critical. Identifying what the risks are critical. And that's where I really value somebody who has that, the mindset that's able to see what the risks are, to say, here's what's at risk. And sometimes those people are called the devil's advocate and those type of things. I'd like to get that framed in a more positive, because they bring such an incredible value by identifying those risks. Part of risk is finding mitigations to deal with it, right? So I think that's a really good point, that we need people who can identify risks, but we don't want the avoiding risk part to keep us from thinking big. That's all. Okay, let's do it.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, if I could say, it's also how people process failure.
Very true. Very true. Yep. Okay, let's do a vote on this one. I'm going to move us a little bit quicker because we're having such great conversation and we just don't have enough time. And I have more to go through. I may have to make it a 6-round contest next time. Okay, that hasn't moved for a couple seconds, so let's go with this one. Once again, abundance thinking. The score, Allison?
The score is 7-0. Abundance holds the lead.
Okay, so I think for round 8, we might go straight to the vote. Let me just see. I'm just in the interest of time. Okay, I feel fearful. This will be so good for discussion. I feel fearful and entitled, or I feel confident and grateful. So can I have, let's just maybe get 2 judges on this one. Any judges? All right, Julie. Are you there, Julie? I think you might still be muted.
Sorry.
No worries.
So it seems to me like these don't necessarily go together. Fearful and entitled, confident and grateful, that you could sort of mix and match these anyway. So I feel entitled or I feel grateful is two ways to think about it to me. Or I feel fearful or I feel confident. They're measuring kind of different qualities of you. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect for me in seeing these put together.
Okay. Again, this is taken from a list of scarcity and abundance compared, but so I understand what you're saying. For me, I do see if you're grateful, I don't believe you have a sense of entitlement. If you're grateful, I do think those are mutually exclusive from my perspective. Also, I think with confidence, if you're fearful, those are mutually exclusive for me, but I understand what you're saying, where they don't seem to be as kind of polar opposite as some of our others were. So it's a great point about these 2 particular comparisons. If I take 2 rounds out for a short one, that'll be one of the ones I take out, Julie.
Well, it's just that you could be confident, you could feel confident and entitled.
I see what you're saying. Yes, okay. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yes. Okay, great point. And how about you, Mary?
I was drawn to the abundance one, and partly I'm grateful for having found Sweet Adelines because of the confidence that it gave me. When I first joined, I was scared to sing in the chorus, let alone on my own or in a quartet. And that's not true anymore. And I've heard that many times from other people who have joined Sweet Adelines, that it really built their confidence, and that carries over into the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So that's where I was drawn.
It's so true. And it's one of those non-singing benefits again that we've learned so much about in the last 6 months. What of the, a lot of the non-singing benefits of our organization, but that is definitely one of the more, there's so many people that share that same experience. All right, let's do a quick vote on this one. Oops. I'm just going to move All right, this one was a pretty easy one then. All right, so round 8 goes to abundance thinking. So Allison, can you tell me based on the competitor that won most of the rounds, who's our winner?
Well, it was very close between the 2, very close, but surprise, abundance thinking has won 8-0, hands down.
Yeah, excellent. So there we are. So that thinking of, comparing the 2, even with some of the great discussion we had, we tend to think that from a perspective of being happier in life, accomplishing more in life, getting more out of life, that abundance thinking tends to be the way to go. Okay, so we're going to move on. Brain fun fact number 2. Did you know the brain remembers by association? So singing, of course, is a great way to rhyming. If we think back, how many of us, if you think of singing, learned our ABCs with a song? Little rhymes that we learn to remember things. Humor, funny stories, word association. The brain remembers really well by association because it's through the neuron connection that we actually remember. So all these things that help us with, and storytelling, of course, is a big one too. If you think of Aesop's fables, teaching us the parables of the Bible, teaching us different things, different stories that teach us something. So we remember those lessons. So I'm going to give you this exercise to take away with you. I want you to create a memory trigger for the elements of abundance thinking. So here's an example for me. For the order of flats and a key signature, I remember battle ends and down goes Charles' father, B-E-A-D-G-C-F. For the sharps, I reverse it. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. So that's a little memory association trick that I use to remember the order of sharps and flats, especially when you start getting down to 5 or 6 of them. The first few are pretty easy, but it helps me to go through that little mnemonic. So again, you'll have this list of the 8, and just take that away as an assignment. Just build yourself a little mnemonic to remember one or all of the different abundance thinking mindsets. Okay. So here's the brain's design and abundance thinking. First, the bad news. The brain's purpose is self-preservation. We've talked about this many times. This is where our biases come from. This is why the brain expends more energy on negative. It has a negativity bias, so it goes to look at what's wrong with this situation, what's the possible threat to the organism based on this situation. And it remembers best the details of those things it perceives as threatening. So though, it will save the things that we remember as being threatening to us, and some of the more positive things the brain doesn't spend a lot of energy remembering because it's not a threat to the organism. But there's great news as well. We can reprogram our brains. We talked a little bit about this in our last session, where there are activities we can do to get our brain thinking in different ways. This is relatively new science, maybe in the last few years, where there used to be a theory that no, you could not once those pathways were set, but in fact, they are discovering that there are methods. The brain's confirmation bias can increase the chances of success. So again, the brain is always looking for evidence to support what it believes. So if the brain, if you are in a positive state, if you're in a state of gratitude, it's going to look for things that increase the chances of success. If you're in a position in your brain where you're thinking creatively, it's going to look for things that boost your creativity. So it does have a confirmation bias that can help us increase our chances of success. And the brain can be highly influenced by the choices we consciously make. So even though much of what happens in the brain is done subconsciously, we can influence our brain by the choices we consciously make. Visioning is an excellent example of this. We consciously envision things. We envision ourselves, for athletes' achievement, they look at themselves scoring the goal, look at themselves making that big high jump, and that brain is influenced by that. It's like it believes it's a fake it till you make it principle, is that whole idea of the choices you consciously make can help retrain your brain. So here are some habits that we can use to develop abundance thinking, put ourselves in abundance thinking more often. Be aware of your thoughts and treat them, they're your own, they come and they go, just let that happen. A lot of mindfulness is around this, just being aware of thoughts, letting them come, letting them go, not trying to control our thoughts so much. Be curious about our thoughts. Why did I think that? Why did that thought come to me? Be curious about that and investigate where that thought is coming from, and let go of guilt. Thoughts come to us unbidden. They'll come to us. If we start focusing, we can take it down a certain path. But the thoughts themselves come into our brain, come out of our brain. Let the guilt go on those thoughts and treat them as what they are, just your own coming and going. Guilt for me is again, it's one of those things where our energy is wasted on guilt. It does not help us. Accountability does, but not guilt. So practice gratitude. That being in that attitude of gratitude, it puts your brain in a place where it's difficult for negativity to enter. So we started the evening with our gratitude exercise to put ourselves in that mindset. And it makes you appreciate life more. It makes you recognize the good that you have. Cultivate and share your passions and purposes. I love puzzles. Some people love to do physical activities. Some people love to cook. So cultivate those and share those passions with people. Watch what you say. Words do have power. So think about what you say. We talked about that last time, especially about yourself. When you do that self-talk, talk to yourself in a caring way, encourage yourself, and look at turning the words around. Words that have negative connotation to you, look at how you can turn the words around, phrasing things in different ways so that you put yourself in a more abundant mindset. Think like a beginner. Always be looking to learn. Always be looking for sources of learning. Ask questions of people who you admire, who you think have the knowledge. There's no stupid question. I really do believe that a question is valid just by virtue of being asked. And ask for help. Always be willing to ask for help and say, I don't understand this. Can you help me understand this? I think that type of dialogue is going to make a big difference in the future of our organization. Explore possibilities outside your comfort zone. Try something new that you've never done before. And this can feel very risky, especially if you're a person who, has a lot of pride and success, or that, have a perceived, if I don't do something well, I'm diminished by that. But try something new that you've never tried. Be adventurous. And let your brain grow. Work on things that grow your mindset, grow your learning. Read books about things you've never learned. It's one of the things I love about being in a book club is typically they read books that I would never have read on my own. So explore your brain. Carefully select the company you keep. Think about how you feel when you're with people. Think about whether they make you feel better about yourself, whether they boost you, or whether they tend to bring you down. And choose to spend the time with people who will make you feel that abundance in your life. And find people that you admire and emulate them. So for me, Peggy Graham and I connected very early in my time in Sweet Adeline. She's been a part of almost every part of my development. She's always encouraging. She's so generous. And so, find those people, spend your time with them, seek their advice, and capitalize on that. And again, I think back to the things that were said about you, Julie, that really lead that. When people are in your company, they are magnified by you. So that type of thing. Create win-win situations. So here's a win-win formula. It's that abundance mentality. There is a world of plenty and there is enough for everyone. I don't have to worry about not having enough. Maturity, and this, probably in a lot of the conversations, the balance between courage and consideration. So when is it right to take the risk? When is it not? That comes with the maturity. And then integrity, keeping promises and treating everyone with the same set of principles will put you into a win-win mindset where you and the people you are with are all benefiting. Okay. A couple of Sweet Adeline examples that I would like to talk about where I think abundance thinking has been put to work. One of them is the response of the regional management teams to COVID-19. Extraordinary response. They've come up with different ways of connecting with the members in their region, making sure they're okay, making sure they have education. They've continued with support of the region. To me, there was a lot of abundance thinking there because they didn't dwell in what wasn't possible. what they had lost. It was just such a great example. And the other one is our behavior at and to competition. We go into competition with that idea that we want to see everybody excel. You think of the judges in the pit, they want everyone on that stage to have their best performance. We sit in the audience and cheer. We love to see, you know, someone, when they announce that most improved chorus, it always excites us. This for me in Sweet Adelines is really, there's a lot of abundance that happens in our approach to competition. Okay. So here's our brain fun fact number 3. Did you know cooperative groups generate more participation and stimulate multiple brain regions? So I think, again, having our judges tonight share their different perspectives with the group made this class so much more full than had I just given you the theory. So I want to thank everybody who participated and everyone who is here tonight participating in the polls. You've made a difference to all of us in terms of what we've gained tonight. So just in closing, I want you to think about how abundance thinking can influence what we do. Identify other current examples for yourself. Identify areas of opportunity. Identify actions that we can take to make abundance thinking part of our culture. And this can be at the chorus level, within your quartets, individually, at the regional level, and at the international level as well. Just think of actions that can put us into that abundance thinking. We need abundance thinking right now for our organization. So, all right. And so just wrapping up, and we'll have a minute for questions. I know we've gone over, but I do want to give people an opportunity to speak up. So just if you want to put in the Q&A, if there are specific principles that you most identify with or that got you thinking a lot, what have you learned today that you will take forward? And then if you have any questions. So let's give a couple of minutes for the chat, Q&A, or not the chat, sorry, the Q&A. If you can put any questions up in the Q&A, any thoughts you had about tonight's learning that you would like to share with anybody else, let's put that into the Q&A portion of the, okay. It takes a few seconds for people to type things in, so we'll give a few minutes on that. Or
we have had, Therese, we have had quite a few people put in the chat the last few minutes, just what a wonderful class and great exercises they've heard tonight. So a lot of really great comments.
Excellent, excellent. And again, if you want to learn more, there are lots of resources about abundance thinking that you can tap into. The the internet is great always for documents or for resources, and there's great books out there. It's something that's easy to explore further. So, okay.
We have several comments coming into the Q&A. Kathy says there are many things from tonight's session that are directly applicable to her role as a director.
Oh,
so
that's fantastic.
She's taken lots of notes, and she's thankful and filled with abundance.
That's great.
Someone wrote a question. They wrote, would you distinguish between abundance thinking and positive thinking?
They are related. Positive thinking is a little bit less defined. So abundance thinking has actually had some science around it, but they are part of the same set of thinking. So abundance thinking is certainly positive. Sometimes positive thinking, the way that it's presented or talked about, doesn't have as much of the foundation as abundance thinking does in terms of, but they are definitely related, very closely related. So certainly abundance thinking comes from a positive place. Great question.
And then Julie wrote, so important to remember that, like love, it's not pie. There's not less of life just because you use more.
It's so true. I love that analogy to love, because it's like the more you give, the more you get, right? It actually magnifies itself. But again, if you think of love, that's an area where if someone has been, you know, had very bad experiences with trusting someone and things like that, it can impact that ability to love fully, and again, can diminish your full experience of life. So I thought that was an excellent point that was brought up several times about how our life experiences inform. And fortunately, we have that capability of rewiring our brain. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more?
Mary said, thank you very much. Very informative and fun interactions. And I definitely agree. And then she asked, will the slides be available for people to look at? I believe they will.
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yeah, I'll provide all of the presentations in a I call it a for sharing role that doesn't have all the animation. It's in just more of a where you can go from slide to slide. Okay. Yes, I'll be making all my presentations available to you.
Fantastic.
Okay. And
I think that's it for now.
Okay, that's great. We did go a little over, so I just want to stop with my own gratitude. I've loved working with Region 12. I'm looking forward to tomorrow again. Your participation is excellent and the discussions are wonderful. I wish I could be there with you in person, but you've managed this experience so well. It's been so positive for me. So I want to say thank you to all of you.
We do have, Therese, we have one last, really a great comment from someone. They said, during this session, I related the word abundance to the phrase, my cup is half full rather than half empty. This is the way I've lived my life, as well as do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And Sweet Adelines has been a wonderful organization to reinforce these two thoughts.
Excellent. What a beautiful way of wrapping this up. And I love that you went back to my cup half full at the beginning of the presentation. That was excellent. What a beautiful final thought.
Well, thank you again so much, Therese. This was such great information for everybody and wonderful discussions. And I thank you so much. We love having you here with us. And we're so excited to hear you again tomorrow, to have you back with us. Just a couple of reminders. Again, the video links for all the classes this weekend will come out within a few days for all of our attendees. So be on the lookout for that. Tomorrow we have 2 more classes with Therese, and her first one in the morning from 9 to 10:15 is called Easier Said Than Done, Conflict Resolution. So really looking forward to that. And her second class of the day, her second and final class of the day, is called The Care and Feeding of Leadership. And that is from 10:45 to 12 o'clock. And then we'll have an hour lunch break. And then from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, our own Kathy Scheel is doing her class titled Ways to Support Your Director during these COVID times. So I think we'll get some great information from that class from Kathy. And then our last class of the day and for the weekend will be with our own Dee Dee Nibbler from 2:30 to 3:30, and that will be smooth singing, how to use your articulators to help achieve legato singing. So we have a full day tomorrow, and thank you again, Region 12, for coming tonight, for spending your Friday night with us. Thank you again to Therese. You are wonderful, and we can't wait to see you all tomorrow.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Night, everyone.